Just take the roll back.
Well, to everyone who was here.
Listen, he was just on the cameras,
We heard, I told everybody who was out here.
That's what I need, I think.
We don't know.
Oh, no.
Take a lot of pressure, any better?
Takes me a second.
Yeah, batteries don't last before like a meeting. Push that. There you go. This way. Fingernail on it.
I'll let you.
In case you can't tell, the meeting is temporarily delayed due to technical problems.
Get one, thanks, Lucy. Sure.
I'm good.
We get started if we need to, Ginger.
Okay. You wanna go ahead and start?
If you want, that's fine.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. First, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Lucy, would you do the roll call, please?
Deanna Dwyers. Here. Sarah James. Here. Frankie Schwartz. Here. Ginger Shank.
Here.
Roger Tucker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next on the agenda is to amend and adopt tonight's agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented.
No second.
I have a motion second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Take a second to look at the board norms on the screen in front of you on your computer so that we can conduct our meeting accordingly. Next up, we have recognitions.
Our first recognition is Frankie Schwartz. So I'd like to thank Frankie for completing her board member refresher training and fulfilling the full requirement of your current board term. So we always like to celebrate our board members as they reach these milestones. So congratulations, Frankie, and thank you for your hard work.
Do I have to come over there?
We'll come over to you if you're
We'll come to you. They'll come to you.
You have to go up there. I'll come to
Yeah.
you. We can stand behind our table, I guess.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Thanks.
So did you want to say anything about?
Sure. The next recognition. All right, thanks. Yes, so this is Board of Education Recognition Month, and just really want to say thank you for volunteering. I think it's important for everyone to know this is not a paid position at all. It's a volunteer your time to make tough decisions for the district, and we very much appreciate all that you do. And as a token of appreciation, there are some cards from the schools, and there is a stocking cap, which Lucy did an awesome job. I didn't think they'd actually stand up like that, but really turned out pretty cool. Some candy inside, so feel free to snack as we work through.
Thank you
things.
so much.
So thank you, Lucy, for putting all
Yes,
that together.
thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. And thank you. Next, we have patron comments. Do we have any comments, Lucy?
No.
Okay. So moving right along to superintendent reports.
Yes, we have Dr. Workman here to talk about special education, so come on up, our Director of Special Education.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make this kind of brief. I just wanted to update everyone about special education, special services department. Currently in the special education portion of the program, we have 621 students, pre-K through 12 that qualify for special education services. That is up from 571 students last year. So we're kind of seeing that whole COVID reflection coming in. It's across the state. We were just talking today with a bunch of LACE administrators, and everyone is going up in numbers. So last year around this time, the state average was 13% special education. Now it's right around 15%. So it's going up, and we are currently at 17%. Okay. We have tested or have referred 189 K through 12 students and 54 early childhood students. In 2021-22 school year, we tested 181 so far, and 2020 and 2021, we tested 159. So those numbers are going up too. So we're finding, more kids to test and child find obligations. Last year this time, this is a little caveat. Last year this time in early childhood, we tested 75 students. This year we've only tested 54 so far. So I don't know if we're just not finding them or they're not out there at this point. So those numbers are going up as far as testing goes, kindergarten through 21. Daniel Boone has 84 students that currently are under an IEP services. Rebecca Boone has 106. Warrior Ridge has 59. Blackhawk Middle School has 151, and the high school has 157 students that are on IEPs and get services from us. We have 17 students that are within the private parochial sector that we service outside. So we're talking about Wesleyan and Holy Rosary. So we have 17 of those students that we service. So then if you see the board report, if you see my board report, I've highlighted different areas of the breakdown of disability categories and where we compare with the state. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that. Do you have any questions with any of that information? Okay. So it really kind of looks to me like our population of emotional disturbance is been quite sizable compared to what the state average is. So we are at 2.15%. The state average is at 0.82%. Most of the transfer-in students that we've gotten have some pretty severe behaviors. We are dealing with some severe behaviors within the school setting. We're looking at new programming. We're looking at behavior plans, all those types of things, but that has been a real concern. The other area of concern is, let's see, I think that our other health impairment. We are probably over-identifying students that have other health impairment. So we're talking students that have medical diagnoses of like ADHD or ADD or things like that, that just need that extra help within maybe a tier 2 situation, but they're not being successful in that environment. So they're becoming special education students. Any questions with that? Okay. Just some of the things that we have done this school year is we continue to meet with all the level teams with our tiered programming at tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So our kids that are at risk, our kids that are getting ready to be special education or that need some support, so we meet with those building teams. We make sure that that we design some tier 2 interventions and strategies to help with more reading interventions and those types of things. So we've set some things up across each building to help with those types of situations and that tier 2. We've updated our referral packets. We've made it that it's easier to fill out, and parents can choose either through filling it out by a QR code where they just scan it on their phones and it brings it up, and then they can do it all computerized, and then it generates into a spreadsheet that we have all the information. And then, or they can just fill it in like normal if they don't have the ability to do that. So that has really helped us get that information on time and in a much timelier fashion. Some things that I have kind of sent over to our teachers. Several years ago, about 5 years ago, I met with the Warren County Transition Coalition, and I wrote the Warren County Transition Guide, where there are services in Warren County, and how to access that information. So that Transition Coalition team is still meeting, and they're doing great things for the community. They're meeting with all kinds of outside agencies. I have actually handed that over to a couple teachers at the high school, and they are doing a fantastic job with meeting with that coalition team and updating and making sure that all of those resources are in place for post-secondary transition. So that high school team is doing great things with post-secondary transition. We do have a job shadow day that's scheduled for April 6th. So we will be sending some students out in the community to do some job shadowing and things. What kind of needs to happen? We're kind of redeveloping our middle school behavior program due to the needs. And we're going to make sure that we continue to work with those outside resources to build and maintain just all of those kinds of trainings and things that we need. As far as 504s go, our counselors are in charge of those. They currently have about 47 students district-wide that we plan for. Moving into the gifted program. The gifted program is doing great things. Last year was our very first year where we did an entire screening for first grade level. So that way we could kind of decide, what kiddos needed additional testing. And then we kind of revamped the referral process using all the indicators that the state has had. So we kind of worked that into a handbook, and it is going great. This year in the spring, we will once again use the universal screener of the COGAT with our first grade students. They are currently having, at elementary level, there are 8 classes that meet on a weekly basis. Classes run for 150 minutes, and that's the DESE requirement. Let's see, in 2023, they screened 59 students and administered IQ testing to 27 students. So they've been busy there. As far as the middle school programming, well, let me break down the enrollment of elementary first. There are 18 students in second grade that are in the Discovery program, 20 students in third grade, 25 students in fourth, and 23 students in fifth grade. So a total of 85 students in the 2 through 5 population. Middle school's doing great things too. They have a breakdown of what they emphasize at grade level. They are servicing 29 sixth graders, 28 seventh graders, and 22 eighth graders for a total of 79. And then they have a breakdown of the classes, how many they have. So they have 3 sixth grade classes, 2 seventh grade classes, and 2 eighth grade classes. So they're working on that curriculum to emphasize self-reflection and organization, creativity, problem solving, teamwork, and then in 8th grade they're looking at that post-secondary stuff, where they're doing a lot of college preps and college tours. Any questions?
You did offer me a moment right after you said it, any questions, and then I was still processing it. So I'm gonna go, it's about in the middle of what you're saying.
Okay.
So you were talking about the percentages and how our percentages are over, and at one point, I don't know if this qualifies, is when you were talking about ADHD, was that under specific learning disability or other health impairments?
Other health impairment.
And so when you mentioned something about, like, are you saying that these students have this, and then they're not being successful in the tier 2 interventions, and so they're moving into tier 3.
So when you're looking at the standards and indicators of how they qualify for special education,
Yeah.
there has to be an adverse educational impact. And that impact could be academically, it could be impacted socially, so you're looking at the whole child.
Okay.
So if a child comes with a medical diagnosis of ADHD or ADD or one of those types of disorders or disabilities, then we have to look when we do testing how that impacts them throughout their entire education.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of times it's more self-regulatory types of things. Can they stay focused for long periods of time? You know, can they control their emotions? You know, do they have the ability to work for long periods of time? Okay, so if that impacts them, then that's how they get the eligibility for other health impairment.
Thanks. I just didn't, I wanted to hear much more than, yeah, so I appreciate you explaining it more to me.
The numbers for the middle school gifted program,
Yes.
can you tell me if that is the number of kids who've been identified or the number of kids who are participating in the program?
The number of kids participating.
And do you know how many have been identified who are not
I
participating?
don't have that information. No, thanks. Sorry about that.
So you mentioned that across the state, the numbers continue to grow. And we also know that the numbers of paraprofessionals are a struggle right now. And so I didn't know if you've heard of how other districts are dealing with this. I'm always open to ideas on how we can help our district hire and retain these paraprofessionals. So we have dynamic special education teachers, and they need that support with their
Sure.
paraprofessionals.
So I actually met with the local group of special education administrators today. When we overall are all seeing the exact same thing,
Mhm.
we are trying everything.
Mhm.
They are trying everything. The little districts seem to be having a harder time finding staff. They're having to adjust how they write IEPs,
Okay.
how they service those minutes, you know, for students. They're knocking on colleges' doors. They're going to, you know, high schools to see if anybody graduating may want to do those types of things. All things that we've tried.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Absolutely. I wish there was some kind of magic, but it doesn't seem to be that way. And it's the same thing with, you know, as these numbers increase, we also talked about this today, as those numbers increase, the amount of special education teachers that are coming out of college being certified to do these jobs is decreasing. So,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Next, we have the financial report.
All right, Lucy's pulling that up for us here. This is just our standard monthly report, nothing too different here than normal. Here we are, our operating revenues, our year-to-date is at 81% compared to last year's at 73%. So that's a pretty big difference, but we were expecting a couple $1 million to come in March last year for COVID money, so that was why last year's is down. Expenses are pretty much the same, about 0.5% higher. Fund balances is much higher than it was last year because of the COVID money that came in, you know, this month last year. So anyway, here's our kind of our fund balance chart. As you can see, it goes up for the month of February, which all the other years have gone flat. The reason for that is we had people not pay their taxes on time, and so that increased our payment when it came in late. So we saw an increase in delinquent payments that we hadn't seen in the past. And we also received a pretty good special education payment that normally comes in March that came early in February, about $400,000. So that gave us that bump there. So right now, if we had to project our ending fund balance, we're going to do a budget amendment here in a minute, but if we spend everything, we're like at 28%, but I think we'll probably be closer to where we ended this last year, so probably mid-30s, 33, 32, somewhere in that ballpark.
The money that came for special education, where did that come from? Local, county, state, federal?
State, that'd be state funded. So anyway, so then we jump into our local funds here. Again, we saw an increase in local taxes, which is what we're expecting, which is great. The food service, the money's coming into Prop C is a big player here as well, so that's good. County money's about the same. State funding is about the same, but we're actually seeing a little less than what we received last year in the formula, but what we're getting made up in is transportation payments. So the transportation payment is covering that difference, and we're actually going to see that increase as the year goes on as well. Of course, federal is a lot less right now because of COVID funds. We'll continue to see that be a lot less as the year goes on, but ultimately we are up in revenue compared to last year. Expenses, salaries are up slightly, benefits are up slightly, purchase services are up, and then again, that's because of the food service facility that we're building, and then supplies are pretty much the same. So that's kind of where we are with that. Fund balance right now for Fund 4, we've got a little less than 1.5 million in Fund 4 at this time. So any questions on that?
Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I move the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Need a roll call.
Okay. First, does anybody have any questions about any of the items before we take our vote? We're going to take a roll call vote. Deanna?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Frankie?
I, with the exception of the February 9th minutes.
Roger?
I with abstention from the 23rd of February minutes.
And I vote aye. Motion passes. Get my agenda on down here. 2, old business, we don't have any.
No business, no.
New business, staffing plan.
That's right, and so we'll pull that up here. Let's get down to that. Not a lot of changes for next year. This is staffing plan for next year. So what we're recommending is, if you recall Daniel Boone, we were short paras, and we hired 1 teacher for 3 para spots. We're going back to having the para positions with being hopeful that we can fill those positions for next year. Daniel Boone kindergarten class has 38 students in it, and currently there's 3 teachers, and so we don't necessarily need 3 teachers there, so we'll go down to 2 teachers in that section there. So go down, kindergarten's gonna go to 1st grade, so we only need 2 in 1st grade, and then kindergarten will just go to 2. Now, if we have more kids enroll, we of course will bring this back with an amendment, but at this time, we would go down to 2. Now, we heard Dr. Workman talking about middle school special education program and revamping that. That needs a little bit more support. So we take one of those teachers and move that up to the middle school to have a total of a reduction really of 1 position, because we combined the 3 into 1. So up there it shows 2 because we had the teacher we combined. That's going back to para positions, and then we would just go down to 1 position in Daniel Boone technically, and then move 1 to a special education position in the middle school.
Does anybody have any questions?
Dr. Ross, I get all that? Yeah.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, we'll need a motion to approve the staffing plan for next week.
I move the approval of the staffing plan as presented for 23-24 school year.
I'll second. A motion's been made and seconded to approve the staffing plan for the next school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a staffing plan. Next, we have budget amendment number 2.
Okay, so this helps us kind of sharpen our pencil a little bit of where we are on this. And we'll see. Yep, go ahead and hold it. Yep. And so what we're seeing is we've actually been able to convert some of the revenue to actual and give us a little bit closer look where we think we're gonna end up. So on the local revenue, we look like we're about $800,000 local additional coming in, mainly for Prop C, but the big thing is interest and investment earnings. You know, we had a $20,000 budget line item there, but since rates have gone up and we've actually had money in the bank, we've been able to make a pretty good return on that. So those investment earnings are doing quite well for us. And then so to kind of get that more of an actual number of where we are, it's about almost 800,000 there. And then so the total amount on there for revenue is $847,910. So we're seeing a little bit decrease in state funding. The parents as teachers screening, of course, we're not being able to provide those, so we're seeing a little decrease there, and decreased food service from the state. We weren't exactly sure how food service funding was going to come in this year. So remember last year we were getting reimbursed for all the meals as free for everybody, so our budgeting was a little bit off on that, but ultimately we're up about $850,000 in revenue is what we projected compared to our original budget. Now, on the expense side, we've added the para stipends in $100,000, then the other ones just kind of worked out to be budget neutral. I don't think that was necessarily a plan because we had to increase our maintenance, contracted services because of the water. I don't know if you remember all the water that came in the middle school. We had a lot of expenses there to get that all cleaned up. And then we had a decrease in MOCAP, and it actually worked out to the dollar to be the same. Just so that looks like genius budgeting, but really it was just lucky. So right. So, but anyway, so the total expenses from our last amendments only up to $100,000, which pushes us at a total revenue of $42,700,000 and total expenses of $44 million. So and that includes all funds. But when we look at just the operational funds, we're projected to still be about $1 million deficit for our operational funds, and that's about the exact same cost of what the new food service facility is. So if you take that food service facility out, operations are almost going to be balanced. We might end up a little bit surplus, because one thing we've not taken into account in this is the number of unfilled positions. We didn't make an adjustment in the budget for that, so we should still be a little bit, our deficit should be a little bit better there. So the operational ending fund balance, if we spend everything, would be at 28.9% at the end of the year, but it'll probably be closer to 32, 33%.
Is there a reason why we don't include the vacancies since it's March?
Yes, because we're hoping to fill the spots, and from an HR, our HR software, whenever it comes over to the budget software side, it just fills the position. And I really don't like messing with that because I don't want it to accidentally do something that messes it all up. So I just don't.
Come June, come July, like we'll see the.
Well, no, yeah, we'll turn it all to actual in June and July at that point. But if we would fill the position, I don't want that to impact the budget side. So we just kind of know that's there, and so it's not necessarily to the penny. But this would be if we would spend everything, including back paying positions, which we're not doing, but we would be at 28%. So I really feel like we're in a pretty good position right now for the end of the year to be above 30%, which is about where you want to be.
If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
A second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the budget amendment as presented. Is there any additional questions before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The budget amendment is approved. No policy first reads?
Nope, not this month.
Okay. We'll move down to miscellaneous, and the first topic is celebrations. And I wanted to say how much and how good it was to see everybody coming in from the community to read for students at the different elementaries. I also know some of the football players came to Rebecca Boone to read, which was fun to see pictures of the kids doing that too. So that was a nice community involvement piece of our school year.
I managed to get to the Music Boosters spaghetti dinner and enjoyed all the music that was shared by all the students there. And I just always appreciate the community supporting those arts programs. It was important to my son to be in band, and I know how much it means to those kids who were involved in that. And then I also was able to get to the middle school play, the musical, which was very, very well done, and it was great to see crowds out for that too. I think they did it 2 nights, and they had a good crowd both nights, and they did a great job. So I feel like I'm starting to get back to getting to student things. You know, it seemed like COVID and everything, I didn't go to very many things, and I'm just now starting to get back to doing that, and I really enjoy seeing what they're doing. And also we had a bunch of kids who are going to state with their solos and small ensembles from the music program too at the high school, and that's good to see.
I also loved the Reading is Fun week at the elementary schools, and each classroom was just full of the kids that were listening attentively and engaged, and the teachers did such a good job. You can see that relationship between them and the students. I also loved seeing Daniel Boone had an art expo up, and they left it up for the week, and so just seeing the beautiful walls and the different displays that they had of the students' artwork was awesome. And so I know we're just having an art expo coming up too, and once they start having those kindergarten nights, and I'm excited to continue to see life fill up our schools.
Okay, we'll move on to work session topics.
I don't have anything to recommend for this month, but putting together we can.
I'm not available the 16th. There's first grade night at Warrior Ridge, and so I'll be there seeing my kid perform, but I'm not opposed to doing it a different night. I do feel like we need to continue trying to strategize certain things for the bond, whether it is creating timelines together, figuring out what events we would need to be holding, what conversations need to be had, and so I still kind of want to push for that.
Wouldn't our regular meeting be the 23rd?
Yeah, we typically don't do that 'cause it's spring break, but we can if you want.
Oh, that's right, spring break, sorry,
There
forgot.
is a 5th Thursday of the month.
There is, the 30th. But
I just wonder if we would, I want to move forward too, like Sarah said, and kind of plan, but with the election shortly after that, we might want to wait in case, we'll definitely have a new board member, to get their input too. I don't know, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm fine with waiting until the board's, Sarah, it's up to you.
Yeah, I am willing to wait till April. I just want to keep
I know.
moving forward. I want to just get it going. So yeah.
Deanna, do you have a preference, or
I'm good to wait.
Frankie?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I think you guys should wait.
Thanks, Roger. Sure you don't want to come in again? So do we just don't have it, we don't need to vote
No,
about it?
right, yeah.
We need to set our next regular meeting.
I move we set the next regular meeting of the board for April 13, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to set our next regular meeting on April 13th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we need to set the next closed session.
I make a motion to set the next closed session to immediately proceed the regular April 13th, 2023 meeting.
A second.
There's a motion and a second to set the next closed session to immediately proceed the regular April 13th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next closed session is set. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Hey, not bad.
Nice.
Make sure you're